exposure. So we are now appealing to the Community Board for funding assistance as we have made an investment in the equipment. Our numbers haven't been great, but we're expecting now that the holiday season, we think more people will come along. It is a great game. A lot of people have said they really enjoy it. The only thing is for some of the older ones, knees and hips preclude them from coming back. They find it a bit of a strain. There's an article in the Economist, and it's got that pickleball is the fastest growing sport, and that's in America, of course. But it is fast growing in New Zealand. They play it in Thames, they play it in Whitianga, they play it in Pavanui, of course, we play it here, and they play it in Waihi Beach.
Sorry, Gail, your 5 minutes is up.
No, I think I've covered just about everything. Any questions?
Your wish.
Thank you. Gail, just wondering, do you open this up for, or open up at a time which is good for the preschoolers?
No.
The young ones that can play like 4, 5, 6 cricket?
No.
Okay.
1:30 on Monday afternoon.
Right.
Yeah.
More questions?
How many members have you got currently, sir?
Variable. We started off, we had 18, 19 people coming along, then it tailed right off because we went into the Christmas, so we cancelled our bookings over the like December, January period. Then we went back again. We've had 2 long weekends, so we haven't had many coming up. I think we need another a bit of a push. Monday would have been ideal for tennis players to come along because it was wet, and I was quite disappointed that they didn't turn up because we have sort of pointed it at them as well. Yeah.
Gail, do you see any capacity with your members to pay more than $2 a week?
Not really. Maybe 3. We're still not going to get up to the 50.
Are you planning on targeting a wider demographic?
No, not at this stage. We're really after the adult. And perhaps the retired adult because of the timing, yeah. If we found there was an interest, well, then we could utilise the school hall. We couldn't utilise that in the day because it's not available to anyone other than the school during the day. But we could take it to the school if there was an interest.
I just mean even working adults probably wouldn't be able to make during the day on a Monday.
No.
And if there's that issue with knees and hips.
Yeah.
Would you use a school hall on a weekend to do it?
We could, but I think the school hall can only accommodate 1 court.
Okay.
And the memorial hall can accommodate 2 courts, but the second court is tight. You know, we just have to chop a bit off the end because, you know, people get right up against the wall, yeah.
I thought the Whangamata hall was quite big. The reason I ask is because as a grandparent, I'd love to go somewhere to play something like that indoors with my grandson.
Yeah.
Who's, at either 4, 5 or 6, would just loves that stuff.
Yeah, 4, 5 and 6 is possibly a bit young because you do need a bit of strength.
Oh, I've got it already.
Okay, so no further questions. Thanks for coming in, Gail. We will discuss this later in the meeting. So.
And will I be advised?
The minutes will be published. You will be advised. We'll make sure of that.
Thank you.
I don't want to be used to a pariah.
No, you just wipe me off.
Just keeping you and everyone else. Thanks.
Thank you.
Let's bring everyone out.
And you'd be able to pay on it.
I'd pay anything to entertain my grandchildren.
Yeah.
I'd pay anything to entertain my grandson for a period. For a morning.
I think it's $3.
Surely that'd be.
You have to do that. Morning.
Morning, Graham.
Do I go, do I? Do I start, do I?
You start the floor. If you'd like to introduce yourself for those who don't know.
My name's Rob Boston. I'm the chairperson of the Whangamata Community Swimming Pool, and this is my colleague on the committee, Graham Smith. Most of you know him. Our purpose today was to come and present a brief based upon a submission that we'll be making to the community board regarding the SLA funding, but also to just give everybody here an update as to where we are with the community pool. I understand I have about 5 minutes. I've got 5 headings. Some of this I'll probably read and skim and ad-lib a little bit, so if you just bear with me while I try to get, there's a lot of technical stuff that I want to try and get across, and I'll do the best I can. So there's 5 parts. The first is the introduction, and we're just confirming that the Whangamata Community Pool is a very valuable asset to the community. It's located on the Whangamata Area School campus. We have a lease with the Ministry of Education. It's in 2 parts. We're just at the end, almost at the end of our first 33-year term, and our second 33-year term would start around about 2021-22. We have a great relationship with the school. The pool opened in 1991. It was a result of voluntary support, both financially and through skilled labour. In 2002, there was further community fundraising, and solar heating system was installed to keep the water to a nice 26 degrees. As I said earlier, it's a valuable community asset. It's treasured by members of the local community, both young and old. It's administered by a management committee comprising of volunteers who have a strong interest in aquatic activity for all ages. We have a strong connection with the community board. We have a good relationship with the school. We work closely with clubs and associations, particularly the surf and swimming clubs. As I said before, it's an integral part of the community, and it provides aquatic experience without having to travel great distances to take part. At the beginning of 2019, we employed a new pool manager. Her name is Monique Thomas, and she's responsible for the day-to-day running of the pool, which includes hiring and managing training of staff, health and safety compliance. Running a pool is very technical. It's highly specialised in terms of managing chemicals and so on. She manages all that. She deals with the management of the pool equipment, including chemicals, as I said, plus a host of other tasks. One of the first tasks was repairing the main pump and the implementation of recommendations made in a report to TCDC by a company called MEPS. And that was a recommendation that we upgrade the chlorine system, replace the electrical distribution boards, upgrade manual water systems, and implementation of compliance issues relating to the storage and handling of chlorine gas, which is quite a difficult thing to do. Monique is a gem. She's been outstanding for us in the last couple of years. In addition to that, we employ 2 lifeguards. We train those lifeguards. They're generally young people on uni, and they come back in the holidays, and we train them up, and we try to get the minimum of 2, sometimes 3. The cost of employing these lifeguards has gone up considerably over the last 2 to 3 years, mainly due to the increase in minimum wage. And last season, it cost us $43,000 to employ our staff. The recent upgrade of plant and equipment cost us nearly $30,000. That comes out of our reserves. Getting to grips with managing a community pool, that's been a bit of a challenge for us. Some of us haven't had a lot of experience with that, but we're a new committee. We're working hard to get to grips with it. The things that we're trying to get our heads around are health and safety compliance, repairs and maintenance, development of a long-term management plan, a development of a refurbishment plan for the pool. We're trying very hard to develop a transparent working relationship with TCDC, the community board, to maintain and enhance this integral community asset. We're working hard at marketing and promotion, and we have to work hard at that because there isn't any. Sponsorships, we're trying to enhance our local sponsors and dealing with our major sponsors, which is something we're coming to grips with. But the key thing that we've identified in a little SWOT analysis we did was to grow the number of swimmers, introduce new aquatic programs and activities to the pool. We've done that on a couple of occasions this season. We had several challenges in our first year. COVID reduced the length of our season, affecting our income, the increase in the minimum wage, higher costs, and balancing R&M priorities. Current and future requirements. We've been advised that the solar heating system is nearing the end of its working life and not to spend any more money on it. At the end of the 2021 season, there's 4 key tasks that we have to address. One is that we need to make sure that the pool isn't leaking. If it leaks, we need to fix it, and to fix it, it will need a membrane.
Excuse me, Rob, 5 minutes is up, but obviously
Is that
you've
it?
got more to say. No, would you like some more time?
I would love a bit more time, sorry. Do you want me to reduce this?
No, I'll move you have an extra 4 minutes.
Right.
All those in favour? So we've got another 4. All those in favour, aye, against?
Yeah.
Okay, continue on. Thanks.
So we've got some maintenance work to do. I'll summarise this. We need the pool floor needs painting, it needs some expansion joints, and it's got to cost around about $40,000 to do that. So we've identified that. We take great encouragement from the community support that we've received. We've had steadily increased the number of people swimming this year, and lots of out-of-town ratepayers, local ratepayers, as well as local residents. We formed a subcommittee, and I'll briefly go through this. We visited as many community pools as we could. Caddycat, 3 pools in Western Hauraki district area. We've been to Thames Pool, and simply our summary there is that we are seriously underfunded in terms of managing the pool. For example, Caddycat get 108 grand from the Western Bay District Council to manage their pool. We've asked a company called Kuma Aquatic to come and do a little bit of investigation for our pool, and they've done that. They've given us some prices to refurbish the pool. We've got prices here, and when we finish this presentation, I'll give you a copy of this full submission so you can see that we're trying to look at how we can bring the pool up into next 33 years. We're grateful for working with the board regarding the LTP consultation plan that's going out. We appreciate the work that's been done there to give us those 3 options of funding to refurbish the pool. And we will certainly need support from the local board here to help us promote to the local ratepayers how we get our vision for the pool to the local residents. Finally, this is part of the address today was to address the SLA and try with 4 or 5 points, which is really to identify that the key issue we're facing is that of staffing and paying for staffing. We only have 1 lifeguard on duty most of the time, and it's just not the way it has to be done. In other pools, there are always 2 lifeguards on duty. For us to fund that, it will cost another $25,000 a year to make that happen. And there's more detail of that in the report. In summary, our current SLA is $35,000. If we were to to get all of the funding that we require to manage the pool properly, we're seeking another $49,000. The total grant would be $84,000. I don't know whether that includes GST or not. I'm sorry if I've gone over my time. As I said before, there is a full document here that I can hand out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob. Questions?
Yeah, I just say a very comprehensive report, and thank you for bringing it to the table. It's a important community project. With your discussions around the other pools that you went to visit, were some of them heated, and if they were, what kind of equipment was put in to manage those?
None of the pools are covered. There was a plan originally to cover this pool. We've pretty well put that on. It's not something we'll consider.
Right.
Caddy pool is heated with thermal energy. Thames Pool have just recently put in heat pumps. They're hoping to run 12 months of the year with good pool covers. The Pyro Pool is the same, heat pumps. The technology at the Waihi Pool was on that school site was very old. They were using heat pumps. We haven't yet been to Mercury Bay and Coromandel, but we're planning to do that. Heat pump seems to be the way to go. Yeah.
Did you explore the funding base for each of those pools? Because there will be quite different. Each funding base for each school would be quite, each pool would be quite different. I would suggest.
The Caddycat pool is run by a trust. who
Is
funded
it district funded?
through the Western Bay District Council.
So it's district funded, not locally funded,
District.
as a rating base?
That I couldn't answer, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
But the only information we did get through the Thames was that we understand that the Thames pool, the staff and the running of the pool comes through district funded, is that correct?
No, it's locally funded.
Locally funded, okay. The Hierarchy District Council, 3 pools, they were all funded through the council. The 17 lifeguards were employed by the council, and the facilities administrator was employed by the council, and they estimated that was about 200,000.
Rob, question, in terms of when the school uses the pool, do you provide lifeguards when the school are using?
No, they provide their own, yes, yeah.
And what payments does the school make for using the pool?
To my knowledge, none. Well, when I say that, they would pay a lane fee, like a normal highway person, they pay a lane when they use the pool for their own activities. But there's no fee that comes in as a grant for us providing the pool.
Okay.
That'd be historical.
And what are the other opportunities for additional income?
One of the things that we want to develop is learn to swim. And most pools that develop have a learn to swim component. It's crucial to your financial viability, really. It just gives you steady income. Benefits are that people are getting into the pool and aquatic activity early. And we looked at developing a learn to swim therapeutic pool in that complex, and it's part of this. There's a section in this about that.
Just following on from Ken's and to some extent Tamsin's questions, so you make payments to the school for anything?
No, we don't. No. We don't. No, the lease. We pay rates, obviously, towards the school. We pay a rate. Standard.
So school charges you a rate as part of their rate?
Yes, part of the rate.
So that, and yet they don't. They charge you rather than they don't actually pay you anything.
Oh, they pay us. They pay for their lane hire. Like anyone else coming in to hire the pool would pay for lane hire. The school pays for that when we use the pool.
It's on.
Yeah, no, I get that. I've got to not say anything.
Okay. And, sorry, Kate.
So, Rob, with the lease coming to an end, what are your plans? Like, are you going to try and get it as a council asset, or are you going to keep it as a council?
I would like to discuss that. I mean, raise that if it was possible that to enable the facility to become a council facility rather than a community facility, if that is something that could be considered where the council could take the lease over from the Whangamata Management Committee with the school, and we manage the pool. I don't know whether that would have any implications to change the funding structure.
Well, it definitely changes.
Yeah.
And on that, have you considered just doing a better deal on your lease with the school, given the what you're helping to provide in terms of an asset for use? Wouldn't you be better off screwing down a better deal?
I haven't been involved long enough to get to the bottom of all that information. I know that the Waihi pool doesn't contribute to the running of the pool, but I think the Kadikadi High School certainly make a contribution about $6,000 a year towards the running of the Kadikadi pool.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I presume that what you've presented today will be the basis of your submission to the long-term plan coming up?
Yes. Yeah. Most of this documentation in here is really for us to try and put together a good case to the ratepayers to support this.
A good case to the council as well?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, if there's no further questions, thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I leave these here for...
Oh, you will resubmit that with a formal submission once the LTP is actually out for public consultation?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Do you want to distribute it now? Or are you happy with that at the end of the meeting?
Sorry?
Do you want me to distribute?
Oh, if you would mind, yes, please. Thank you for your patience and letting over time.
Hold on.
Thank you.
Do you want to keep on doing
Hey, see you.
You.
The next group's a little bit larger, but I think we can accommodate everyone, yeah.
Okay, manage, meter apart is what
I'll
you
do
can
my
manage.
best.
Brilliant, thanks, Dylan.
We've got one more, I think.
What's this one about? What's this about?
Hello everyone.
Good morning.
My name's Kristen Lopez. This is my son Virgil Lopez. Took his life 4 weeks ago on Monday. You've got a unit and maybe attended his funeral. He was 16 years old. Beautiful young man who homes every day. As you well know, in Whangamata we have a huge problem with suicide. Our stats show that we're at 14% of the, in 2019, 14% of the entire populations of Waikato region that committed suicide happened in Whangamata. We all have close relatives, I'm sure you have all been touched by suicide, and we want to change that. So we have ideas for a long-term plan, including a service possibly under community services, like an umbrella group called Whangamata, which the kids have come up with. Means a peaceful place. So eventually we would like to see an area just for them with a bunk room, kitchenette, lounge, with a person there 24 hours who's been vetted, trained, and first aid and the VAR course. You know, maybe in incredible years, who is able to hold space for that person. I asked myself if this place was here when Virgil left that party that night, would it have made a difference? I can say maybe, and that's good enough for me, because we know that he didn't premeditate this, even though he did have years of despair earlier with this acne and etc. etc. And when I thought he wasn't. So with coronal services, we also know that there's been 69 suicides in the North Island in the first month of January alone. And I think that we're going to have multiple repetitions of attempts of self-harm and successful attempts in Whangamata itself. The national strategy put forward by the government has suggested that communities get involved with people who have life experience, with support people, with councils, and come up with strategies, because there isn't one that's fixing this, because our rates are skyrocketing in New Zealand. Our OECD target is shocking, absolutely shocking, and 2019 was worse than 2015, and 2021 would possibly be worse again. Let's not go there. So I've been working really closely with Monique and Helena from the Community Services Trust, who are stretched beyond limits on how to tackle this immediate and urgent response that we need in Whangamata. So they've come up with some really good ideas, and just to start off small, to build something that is based by this community, for this community, as a work that evolves and can be a plan that can be reflected in other communities. We're not jumping and asking for funding to buy buildings and stuff. I do believe ultimately that I will be put into council to ask for a small piece of land as an umbrella service for community services, but no funding, because this community has, the response has been overwhelming. We have people who want to do the piling for free, we have people who want builders who want to come and do it for free. The plumbers want to do it. They want to do it with the kids, to build this from the ground up with them for free. Now, we don't need funding for pipes or whatever, you know, so that's really important for me as a mother because no price can be put on my son's life. And if we build this with the kids, for the kids, then they have a chance to express and find a peaceful place for them so that hopefully we can alleviate some of their tension and have them hold a space for them so they can find the right path which we can, you know, learn and involve with and be trained with Monique and Elena there and all the other team at Community Services and other people from the community who are ready to jump at any time, you know. So I do, with that, I know that project will be a long-term one, but I do emphasise no funding. I don't want people to come up and ask for funding for pipes and walls and stuff because that's all been donated already by the community. I do believe that that's easy, it's good to go, and I think that healing process and reuniting with our community will be very valuable. We would like to have a 24-hour person there, you know, one support person, one volunteer, say once every 60 days. That's 60 adults in the community who have been trained in first aid, the LIVAR, National Suicide Prevention course, response coordination, which is like regional response coordination team, which we've already had to do. Since Regis' death, we've had kids come to my place and we've worked out grids to find their friend who's going to go and kill himself. And that is a tragic thing to watch those kids run to their trees screaming, knowing that they may see their friend hang from them. That's too much for our children. We've left them by the wayside because, well, I'm talking a lot right now. I can't tell you how I feel. I'm numb and sad, and ultimately I'm responsible because with responsibility and accountability, then we can make positive changes. So we understand, well, I understand that these things take time, and so we would like to start off small and have council offer us the use of the hall at any time to have parent evenings, to have training sessions, to have visitors who have stories that, you know, from symposiums and Rotorua, part of the National Strategic, you know, provisional plan, because it's nothing set in motion yet. And just, we live in the most beautiful place. We live in paradise, but we're losing our kids more than any other town in this country. It's now become an urgent priority, and I hope that council looks to see what they can help us with, even if it's printing off a newsletter. I don't know. So anything that you can do to support community services and plant the seed for this peaceful place for our children, because they are killing themselves at huge amounts. And we've already been to enough funerals here, haven't we, with all the regurgitated speeches and the who don't blame yourselves speeches. That's all shit. It's shit. He was my son, and while I saved other kids knowingly, because we had hundreds at our house from coal and Levi's funeral forever for my older daughters, I didn't save my own son. Something I live with, but I'm determined to work together to make something for this town, because Whangamata's right in this, we're ground zero at the moment. Right.
Well, thank you, Kristen.
It always been flying out.
Presentation.
Yes.
Condolences from the board for your loss.
I know, thank you.
So, any questions?
Yes.
As our condolences and our love and thoughts go with you on this one. Can I just ask that in working together on a project, who would lead that? Would it be yourself or the?
I would prefer to go through community services, because it's they're very real. It's just, and it's more of a sustainable option. It's what's the word we're saying?
It's sustainable and we have accountability.
Accountability, that's right. You know, it's really important that this is done right. I think they are sadly lacking the resources. No offence, ladies, and they're struggling to cope with the ideas. You know,
none of us understand what's required here.
Okay, well, some of the things we want to do is first of all, we've got a campaign for 24 hours. So when children have, especially at night with drugs and alcohol, they make really stupid mistakes on a heartbeat, because their friends, they've had a fight with friends, and mum and dad are not getting on, or some reason after a party, and we all know that there's been lots at my house, but nobody's ever gone home in any state but happy. And I ask forgiveness for that, but sure as hell a lot of parents like their kids being at my house. So what we want to do is start off small, have the Swim for Our campaign brought to light, which means that we promote that people can hold space, like I will have in my guest rooms. We have to pick kids up so that they can wait 24 hours until the day, light of day, where then we can address the situation better. Let them have a sleep, let them give them something to eat.
So I think, just remind me if you don't mind, I think it's actually sitting down, someone needing to sit down with community service with you girls, and then just working through all these different things and all these details, rather than trying to do it now.
Oh yeah, no, so I'm just saying that these are our focuses at the moment. We want, well, I would like, I'm doing a national suicide prevention course online. That's available free around the country. We would like to facilitate anyone in the community, including council members, to have that course under their belt, because that gives you the right tools in order to hold space for that short amount of time until we can get other services. Police are stretched more than they can say. Mental health is stretched more than they can say. CAT team don't even turn up. No offence to any of these people, but we're on a little island here, and we need to monitor and maintain any idea we can to stop.
40% is the biggest step.
Yeah, 14%, sorry.
14, so I thought you said 40.
Yeah, 2019 was...
40% of the Waikato area.
Yeah, 40% of the Waikato area, which is still a lot, because our population is 4,500, 485,000. No, that's, we're what, 1% of the population with 14% of the suicides of Waikato, which I think is absolutely appalling.
So just my condolences, obviously, to you, and tragic for you, I'm sure. You talk about you've got a bit of a plan going here.
Oh yeah. Well,
and our plans, what we're talking about a marae that has a cultural centre and bringing the community trust into a project for the hub. Yeah. Is this kind of project that would fit in with something like that for an area? I would prefer to go to community services and have an umbrella branch for that. I would like to like to say that we have received offers of assistance, but no confirmed leadership of a marae in this area for various reasons, and they are only too willing to come and show typical Māori coffee. So this is different. This is about an area for the kids to hold space for youth so they can express themselves. But on the same hub area we talked about,
well, the hub that I've seen talk about is that they want to have space to hold the Lions Club stuff, which I'm not trying to deny anyone this. But so through this area, because this is an urgent and very nationwide situation, that this is just solely that peaceful place for the kids and any services they need. And I'm talking kids here from 11 to 25. Because a safe place that they know is safe and they will wander to. Like, obviously, kids are going to turn out there in all sorts of states, I'm sure, as we well know, we've seen them on the streets. My son couldn't even talk, apparently, when he rang one of his friends, but when he spoke to me when he got home, he seemed quite fine, but I was asleep. He usually always got home before midnight, but he was so drunk he couldn't even talk to his friends who were so paralytically drunk themselves that they didn't even wake up to his phone calls. So this is the unique position of no drugs and alcohol. And I think that, so with that, it's mainly for the kids, and I want them to have a safe space where they can look forward to doing things. People are offered, I've got artists, I've got people from movies, all sorts of people who want to come down and just hang with kids. Make a connection, because that connection is what we need to subscribe to. And it could be me, it could be you, it could be you. If they don't want to talk fast, they'll go, oh, what's your story? I know people who've climbed Mount Everest twice, Amazing, inspiring people. We know fabulous artists. We've got a beautiful community and everybody wants to do this, So ultimately that's the plan, to have that space for, no, not a community centre, right? I'm sorry, no.
Monique, did you want to add something?
Yes, I just wanted to mix that up. Yes, it would be separate from the community marae hub.
Yeah, because I just think it's too much I think this is a more urgent matter. So,
Final question, okay?
So President, really all you were asking for is a piece of land.
oh, well, then in the long term, not today.
No, but
Don't get me wrong.
what I mean, that's your
yes,
vision.
Just a piece of land,
Because
just a small
then
piece of land, like, say you
people would come and.
yeah, with Williamson Park, they will come and build it, just a small bit on the end there by those white flats, no one will even see it. Nice little deck, perspective, beautiful outlook, peaceful place, in a park that's gorgeous. And then that will increase the young youth's pride in their surroundings, keeps them out of Main Street, away from the skate park. Something just been, I don't know, how do you feel about that?
We have a lot of parks.
Oh, yeah, we do, exactly right,
Yes, you do.
But so long as it's got a facility for community services to have an office and a bunk, or a nice bed there, so there is a 24-hour person there, 24 hours, that's it, has to be there.
And I think you're asking for just anything,
At the
any type of
moment,
support
yeah, at the moment,
just anything.
While we do this, we're looking for training to support workers and parents in the community for first aid, the Lifeguard course. We need access to the call for that. We would like to have council support us by providing those facilities so that we can organise these meetings and quickly,
Okay.
So if we call next week, we can have Rob Makalala or Scott Simpson or the people from the bar coming and doing a group course for, I don't know, 1,000 people if they want. It's a very short online course to give you those specific tools. We all need to do it, I'm not asking for the Marae or a group where everything's under one roof, because I think that things will get lost there.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. Certainly not.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Please address this, because you are our representatives and this is urgent.
That's the wrong question.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the brief.
Thank you.
So Helen, you're going to be speaking now,
Just very briefly.
once we get the table cleared.
A resident water.
Good at it. Thank you.
Good.
It's really a short message because I know many of you are working really hard on this. The need for Whangamata Community Marae and Community Hub is growing. Since 2017 and before, we have struggled to get the message through. We can pull together more easily and avoid silos of activity which waste community resources with the community hub. There are many strands to this community that can be supported by a community hub. People are more important than property, but we need to control this property in Lindsay Road to help our people grow. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you, Helen.
Thank you.
Okay. Welcome, Melanie. The floor is all yours.
Hi, thank you. Hello, everybody. First of all, I just wanted to support Kristen. Children have been singing out for a place to hang out at Whangamata for years, even when my children were young, and they're all now in their 20s. So, it's something that Whangamata has been wanting, or parents or families of children have been wanting for a very long time. And we just haven't had it, So it would be very beneficial for our children to actually have a place, a safe place where they can go hang. And the other thing is I support the community marae, and if it's possible to probably maybe have like a piece of land where they can have like this a little small place for where the kids can go, and then have the community hub as well, then the access point for the kids for if somebody wasn't able to man that 24 hours or something, then the access point is there as well. So and it's also something that's been wanted or needed actually in the community for over 40 years, you know. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have any affiliation to any iwi or anything like that. It's a community one, and the community one is to help all people.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, well, thank you very much for your presentation.
Okay, thanks everyone.
Thank you. Are there any more speakers? Go and check, see if there's anyone on it.
Franken. F-A.
Oh, Franken.
Yeah, F-R-A-N-K-E-N.
Okay, so someone like to move that the presentations be received? Moved by Ben, second by Kay. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Item 1.4, anyone have any conflicts of interest? Looks like not. Are there any items not on the agenda? There are not. So we'll move now to minutes for confirmation. I'll move, so moved by, seconded by, okay, moved by Terry. Any discussion? If not, I'll put those. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. So, turning to point 1, the application for discretionary fund from the Whangamata pickleball group. So we've got the report there, and the recommendation is really for us to decide where we're going with this one. We've heard the presentation from Gail this morning, so I'll open it for discussion.
Through the chair, I just don't feel confident that they're creating a model that's sustainable and accessible to a greater range of age groups, really. I think so I'm not sure that I support increased funding until they have a sustainable model.
So we 2.1, are we?
Yeah.
About the lighting, is this?
No, pickleball.
Oh, pickleball.
What page are you on there? Councillor Woodman?
Oh, I'm on the minute, sorry. I just haven't got that far down the track. I'll keep going. Robin?
Just a suggestion that you follow your run sheet.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I've got a run sheet.
So you new people.
Well, the first time, yeah.
I'd just like to say that I can understand that they're starting off, but and probably they've got a hard time, but maybe if we were to give them assistance for $600 for 3 months as a trial period, so that they can try and establish themselves there, that might be a starting place for them.
I think also that the reason it started is because when Sports Waikato came in, we realised that there was quite a dearth of activities, physical activities, for people who had played tennis, had played squash, and then found that they couldn't play it. And I think that's where pickleball has sort of grown in popularity, because I know, you know, I've been to Te Puru and there's Thames and that, and, you know, they get 14 or 15, and it is great, but they're struggling to get this off the ground because of the lack of facility. And it did not work out on the courts because of the wind. So I would like to do what Dave says and just give them 3 months to see.
I somewhat share Tamsin's concerns. Is it going to be sustainable if the most they can go to is $3 a week and they're operating those hours and the numbers ever get up? So you do it for 3 months, and at the end of the 3 months they'll be in the same position of still not being able to afford the rent.
But you don't know that though, do you?
But I thought potentially it was lower impact than it sounds like it is, which means that they do need to open it up to a greater.
Yeah, but I think that will come if it's quite tight.
But it won't come if it's Monday at 1:30.
It's the hall. When else are they going to have? Because there's dance, you can't go in the afternoon because of the dance. Young kids do have quite a lot of activities in this. in this town if they want to do them.
Yeah, I don't necessarily mean children, I just mean people that are working.
But people that are working are able to go to the tennis, to the squash, to the golf, to everything else, I think. But that's just my view anyway. I just think that we need to support something that people are going out of town to do.
Terry, you've got it.
I listened to the discussion. I think it's, I suppose, both sides. I hear what's going on here. But they're starting off new. They're doing through the summer when it's very active to do a lot of other things, and maybe not pickleball's the right thing through summer. It might be more of a winter sport when they're inside, you know. So I'm sort of erring on the side of giving them some leniency to prove themselves. Maybe a period of time. Can we hold the rental of the hall for, say, 6 months and say at the end of that time, if you haven't got yourself sustainable to carry on, we cut the deal, or they pay.
I think that's the suggestion of $600 to give them that.
That's
Do we have to give them money to it seems, taking Peter to give it to Paul?
Yes, we have to give them money to pay for the hireage because we don't have.
Because council's policy says that somebody has to
Okay,
pay.
so our money goes in, the money goes, okay, whatever. So yes, it doesn't, I've just kept my point across is that give them 6 months to prove themselves, build up some sort of momentum, and then off they go on their own, rather than just cutting the legs off at this point in time, maybe seems a little bit early in the piece. That's my feeling.
One more point that's not really addressed in the resolution is that they've highlighted in their letter the issue with not being able to put permanent tape down, and we haven't really addressed that.
Yeah, we talked about that, where there's other tapes possible down, but the hall custodian's not letting them tape to the floor. Are they taping to the floor?
Taping to the floor, and the hall custodian isn't allowing them to tape the damage of leaving it on there, because the floors have just been varnished and
So each time they go, they've got to start doing the whole thing again, which is a little bit of a mistake.
But I mean, we can actually ask somebody if, I mean, no, pulling it up is doing as much damage as leaving it down.
Leaving it down.
So maybe some understanding that might be good. Yeah.
Can we put a suggestion in that they do a trial period of 3 months with leaving it down and see what comes out of that?
And 6 months to prove themselves.
6 months to prove.
Because I think it needs to go through the winter.
Yeah, it's a winter sport.
It's a winter. We could do it from March through the
I think March, April, May is fair.
March,
3 months is fair.
August, go through to August.
So I think what I'm hearing is that you're suggesting $600 and we've also get the staff to identify whether there's the possibility of leaving the tape down. There might be an occasion where it has to come up because of a specific event, but if there's no pressing need to take it up on a week by week basis, then it remains down until it has to be lifted.
But quite often, from Monday to Monday, there's actually nothing in that part of the hall.
Now, I could imagine there might be times like when there's a Lions market and it's
yeah.
going to be ripped and.
Can I ask Eileen, is the courts marked out now for badminton, are they? What's the markings on the floor now?
I think they are badminton, yeah.
Do they play badminton there?
No. Used to.
Yeah, used to, yeah.
Used to.
I don't know.
So is there a possibility of having badminton type markers on the floor?
Yeah. Just in saying that, there's another Lions market in
Easter.
Should we suggest that they put up with this until after Easter? And then once the market's over, we do a trial run of 3 months with the tape down?
Yeah, with the taping down.
That's good, yeah.
After Easter.
What is 6 months before Easter? Yeah.
Feedback from the.
6 months before Easter?
Easter's end.
Easter.
I don't think
Easter,
we need to
April.
come up with.
Beginning of April.
February.
Yeah, 6 weeks I said, not 6
No, you
months.
said months.
6 months.
Okay, 6 weeks.
So I'll have a chat with the custodian and property to find out if they can leave the tape down,
After Easter.
and then we'll go from there.
Run it after Easter.
Trial it, because they don't increase their numbers and they don't do any marketing.
Yeah, we discussed that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, and the $600 from my perspective is a one-off and won't be repeated, so they have to become sustainable because we don't want them to.
And that should be pointed out in the measure, I think.
Yeah.
Okay,
So just put it, it does say one-off payment, yeah, of $600. and start to engage the custodian with a view to trialling, leaving the takedown for a long period or something like that. Yeah, that's been moved by Dave, second by Kay. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried.
Yeah.
Okay. Item 3.1.
Like you say.
Appropriate hall. The sad start again. Do we have any staff to?
What are we doing now?
Robin Georgia.
Poetry hall.
Yes.
Thank you for the report and the photos. So, yeah, you want to expand on that at all?
Yeah, so currently the Pottery Hall is sitting with an insanitary building notice on it as a result of a high amount of mould through the ceiling and the roof. It's been obviously an issue for some time. There's a few other issues with the building as well around the bathroom facilities, there's smashed vanities, there's a few other things. The place just needs a general clean-up. The Incorporated Society who were in charge of this building have dissolved, so we don't actually have a management group there per se at the moment. So what we are trying to figure out as property is what we want to do, I guess, with the future of a Pottery Hall. Do we want to hand it back as Crown land and then we only own the building? So that's kind of where we're just wanting some guidance. Do we want to keep the building? Do we want to, give the building back, the land back, sell the building, walk away completely, or we can go to consultation and try to find a new management group to look after the Pottery Hall.
Very.
Poetry is a very strong settlement. Consultation is important there. We don't give them anything really. This is their little thing on the end of the road, and I don't think they'll want to see it go, but it's going to cost them money to fix it right. So it's consultation about how they're going to move forward and how it's going to be used, I think, is really important before we jump in and do it. We've heard maybe a fire station wants to go there and other sort of things that we've talked about. Nothing at the moment, but consultation through the ratepayers or whoever it is contact must be happening.
Can I ask a question? Georgina?
Yes.
It's Gary Gottlieb here, long distance. What would happen if the hall went and this land, which is Crown land, set as a reserve for a public hall? What would happen with the land?
That would go back to DOC, I would say, to figure out from there, because it would revert back to them as the managing body of it.
I think it'd be worthwhile exploring a bit on what Terry's saying, is if the community there didn't want a hall, but they saw some other community need, whether that could be built into the consultation, so that if the hall was going to be replaced, whether it was a fire station or something else, that could be then built into discussions with DOC going forward. So expanding more the future of the Pottery Hall in land. So why is we can let more and talk about land. You wish
Yeah, I personally, I would think that definitely what Terry said, consultation absolutely first, because once you relinquish it, you'll find it much harder to get back. And I see that as being a real asset because it's flat, open space, really. And yeah, if you've got any other, if another community group wants to form or an existing one wants to take over the responsibility and oversight of that area, you're better off doing that than handing it back, because yeah, I think it's a great little asset. But having said that, it's a local asset. It's not a council asset because council doesn't own the land.
Through the chair, the report arose because a group's formed because they want to use it as a hall, isn't it? Is that?
So yes, they haven't formed as such, but they are willing to. So we've been in conversations with the contact there who's on the 3 boards, the ratepayers and everyone out there. So they are willing to pull together a group. There has been interest, but we haven't gone and consulted them completely to figure out if that's just one opinion or that is a consolidated opinion from all the groups there.
Through the chair, I think definitely the consultation's needed, but I see in the long-term plan 21, 22 that there was 45,000 that in the draft for that, and the top figure of 49,600 for the wall lining, bathroom flooring and deep clean would go a long way to actually bringing it to a condition that people could actually go in there, because you definitely can't with that black mould on the roof and that sort of thing. And then if they do elect to bring this committee together again, then the discussions could be made in relation to the other matters of the interior painting, the kitchen, etc.
Can I just ask, is that the total cost, 49,000?
No.
What's the total cost?
127,802. That's in parks, off-street parking.
That's the desirable works, that doesn't include the works to meet the minimum requirements.
49,600 is the necessary work to bring it to.
177 all up, is that right?
Yes.
So 177 all up, so you really need to make a decision on its future before you spend the money. You really need to have the people that want to take over responsibility for it in place before you start spending the money.
It needs to have something.
Yeah, I raised just recently about the fire station, and I think it is worth merit to consider. They've had real fire issues out there, or risk issues, and NPI is doing a plan for that through DOC. And if that was a place that maybe they could relocate to get quicker service to that particular community, there's an option there to consider. It's a good one.
Is the land big enough to hold a fire station alongside?
It's pretty big.
It's pretty big. I would have to look more into what the legal requirements are.
Reasonable, not a lot of parking though if you use up more of its space.
It was used for a market for many years, and it's quite a successful market, just out there on Saturday.
So we've got two recommendations here. I'd like to move 1 and 2 with the addition of the future of the Coterie Hall and land. Put the word and land, so after Coterie Hall, and report back. So staff, I think, have heard what we've got to say, and there's a lot of work to do with the community. Talk with them and then come back. So until we have that discussion, that consultation, explore the different options, then you'll be able to come back and all there. So I'd like to move that. Would someone like to second by Dave? No further discussion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Georgia.
I'll stay here.
Oh, you're here.
You better get in there and do it now then.
Okay, now we come to the Croquet Club, the new lease. And it's all pretty clear to me, so
I'd like to move
moved by Kay, second by Dave. Any discussion? If not, I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Okay, so we've got someone to speak to the parking bylaw amendments. Wait for James McCarthy to come to this item. What's this one? Yeah. Hi James.
Hiya, how are you going?
So we've got your item here, so suggesting 2 lots of yellow lines to go around town.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So I've had a look at them and I don't have any problems with the 2 that you're suggesting, but I'll open it for discussion.
James, just as a suggestion, it's noticeable that the people, particularly the overflow from the ambulance shop that's just there, use that green grass between the roadway and the road for parking as well. We wondered whether a piece of footpath, something would stop them from doing that, as well as the broken yellow line.
Is that on the corner of Martin and Gates?
On Martin, yes.
By the petrol station, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because they do park on that lawn.
Yes, yeah.
Which still obstructs the view coming
Yeah,
along there.
have you experienced it before?
Yes,
I've driven it a few
yes,
times, and
yeah.
there's namely 2 or 3 units that park there.
Yes.
I believe that with, someone from the council has spoken to them and said that they've been quite happy with that. They're not going to stop parking there.
Okay.
And that's kind of why the basis of it was. I didn't realise there's an ambulance.
It's a shop, where they buy second-hand clothes.
Oh, okay.
And they get a lot of business there. So particularly on the weekend.
But I don't think that use is from the same.
No, it's not. That's
No,
what
no,
he's
it's
saying.
And it is really dangerous.
Yes, yeah.
He's parking right on the corner.
Yeah.
The broken yellow line would stop them parking on the road
It
plate.
needs to be a
That's the
solid
actual
yellow.
road. If he parks on the lawn, there's nothing, as we've heard from Gary today, there's nothing that can stop them from parking on the lawn. It's already challenged us. So my suggestion was a footpath.
Yeah.
So that they couldn't park on the footpath.
As well.
I'd stop them.
Yeah, it'll stop, we can't enforce
You're
it.
not allowed to park on the footpath.
No,
Park on their burners
can
now,
enforce it.
but they can't park on the footpath.
Yeah.
No, that's
So I support Dave's, absolutely, the footpath comes around the corner now.
Yeah.
And stops, and it'll carry it on to hook up to the footpath that's already along there.
Yep.
Is what's required
Yep.
with the yellow line.
That'd please the person who's raised it in the first place as well. 'Cause
Yeah.
he wanted.
Yeah, and that will resolve the whole problem.
Well, when's it gonna park then?
Through the chair, James,
Then it
I would actually like to see it a solid yellow line
Sure,
because sometimes people say, oh, but it's a broken line, you can have.
okay.
And I would like to see a big solid yellow.
What's the difference?
Well, yeah, some people think that you can park on a broken yellow
Well,
line.
they should look at the road code.
I know, but if it's a
No,
solid yellow.
I'd be reluctant to change.
It's solid.
The rest of the town has broken yellow lines.
What's the traffic reasoning for the difference between a broken and a fair?
I'm not sure.
Okay, there may be some
We've got
rationale.
solid lines where there's no.
A solid yellow line
Yellow line.
signifies which area the road goes into as opposed to parking.
Yeah.
But the broken yellow line legislatively requires it to be no more than, I think it's 18 inches from the curbside itself, and that's no parking. So if we want to enforce it, we put a broken yellow line in there, and then that should stop it.
So enforcement requirements mean a broken yellow line.
But all of our other no parkings are solid yellow. Down by the beach, there's no parking of solid yellow lines.
Well, they only depict an area, they don't depict a.
Well, I don't care, as long as it's wide, so they can see.
So we need to add to the resolution to get the footpath, please?
Is there any other way we can prevent people parking on the grass without?
But the footpath's part of that construction, and the space coming out of the supermarket, they can come around the corner, it was always there to be done.
Yes, at the moment, it's just stopped.
It's just stopped.
Nowhere.
Yeah, so cars can park there thinking it's a berm, so we need the footpath to complete that project.
Okay, we just need a budget for footpaths and we'll be
We've got a
right.
budget for footpath.
It's not very tough.
Days.
It's not very tough.
Okay,
Another alternative would be bollards, which is done on the next corner down.
But a lot of
The
people walk
footpath
along there.
allows people to walk along
That's
there
true.
and transfer along to the.
It is a very high pedestrian use, and that, we've always, I thought that when that petrol station went in there, they would have
Yeah.
made
so
sure that
number
that.
3, I think Terry's saying staff to investigate the placement of a footpath alongside the petrol station.
Complete the footpath from the corner to the
St. John's.
St. John's shop.
I'll second that.
John shop to
And it's a garage, yes. It's a bit old, is it?
You've got to get to the
John shop.
Okay,
I think we, yeah. So any comments on the Lincoln Road one? Everyone happy with that? Okay, so do you want to move them all, Terry?
Yeah, I'll leave them all.
With that
I'll
amendment,
second all.
seconded by Kay. No further discussion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. Item 4.2, the work programme. Bruce's in the house.
Yeah, that's worth.
Is it right?
What's that?
Vacate the seat.
Vacate the seat.
Let's a bit quiet.
Take my chance. Take my chances.
Okay, so we have the work program there, so I'll open it up for discussion, questions.
Through the chair.
Yeah.
I'd like to look at the first one, the one with the harbour renewals, Bruce.
Yes.
So the 193 grand, it's not all for the refurbishment of the concrete pontoon, is it?
I believe that the structural repairs are part of it, and then that second comment explains a little bit more about that.
So the structural repairs, I understand on the wharf's been completed. We've got something from council say it was done.
Yeah, some of it's done. Yeah, so there was a structural
concrete pier underneath the thing that they had to repair.
Yeah, so there's the pontoon and the structural work. So I believe the structural work's been done, and now we're working on the pontoon.
They say the pontoon. So how much of that 193 is the pontoon? The difference between the 116 and the 93?
Oh, I couldn't confirm, sorry Terry, because sometimes we get a bit of a lag on invoices coming through, so potentially that it might be more was the structural work, and we just haven't received all the final invoices.
So I understand the pontoon is not yet being replaced. It's talking about the ropes along the side.
Yeah, there were some changes. I think we discussed that probably months and months ago here regarding the ropes and all that kind of stuff for the pontoon. Yeah, but I'm not intimately familiar with all the details.
So I'm just concerned about why it's pushed out to the 30th of June, or is it when it's going to be planned before then?
Well, so I think it's just around trying to get it outside the summer period and just from the disruption during the peak period. Yeah. I mean, possibly they could do it a little bit earlier, but I guess they're just trying to...
Well, we don't want to see it on the 30th of June because it rolls over to the 1st of July, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
So it's another financial year.
It does. So they're saying May and June they'll get it done before the end of the financial year.
The completion is the end of the year. But we know
it's only 1 week's work because
it's only 1 week's work. Yeah.
1 week's work during that 8
so
weeks.
I'll go back. Know the cost of that.
Yeah, I'll go back and I'll talk to the team and see what the cost is, and I'll also just have a discussion with them about if there's an opportunity to get it done, maybe between Easter and the end of the year, rather than waiting until May and June.
So Taiwan, we got their brand new pontoon for 5K. They did it, built a mention, stuck it out there.
Yeah.
So I'm just concerned about what dollars are being pushed into this to upgrade it.
Sure.
I'm sure there were some figures before, because at one of our meetings it was something like 60-something thousand, and we asked why it was so expensive. I'm sure that was one of our meetings.
Yeah. I'll have to
come back on that one?
Yeah, I'll come back with that level of detail.
Because that seems a hell of a lot for a pontoon. How would they put it around, isn't it? I'm not allowed to, yeah.
So, what other questions do you have there, Terry? I'm sure you've got more.
Somebody else can have a go. This is the key part of what we're here about. This is work that should be done, and I've looked at our annual plan of what should be done, making sure that we're on track so we don't roll over into the new financial year. There has been some issues raised around street lights in certain parts of the town, and I think Dave's highlighted a couple of those. The
Chevron place is one off the drive.
Yes.
There's only one street light at the very end of the cul-de-sac, and it is very dark there at night. So
Chevron Drive.
Yes.
Did we, and Terry might have it there on his list of annual plan projects, did we have a street light improvements budget for this year? Because
we had a street lights renewals and a street light improvements of $23,000.
Okay. I'll follow up. We should have grabbed James when he was in here because he should have been able to answer that. So, but I'll follow up on that one as well. So I've noted that Chevron Drive.
Yeah.
So why isn't the streetlight improvements on this list?
I think the project team must have, inadvertently omitted that one.
Too dark.
Maybe they couldn't see it.
The money hasn't gone, has it?
No, the money won't be gone unless we did that during the year through a revision, which I don't believe we did do. So.
The next I'd like to raise is Wentworth Valley Seal Extension.
Yes.
Psyched it out the other day, and the road's looking great.
But they couldn't collect the rubbish yesterday because of flooding on the road. So they could only go down according to the notes on from council last night.
So it's a good test work.
I tried to stop that rain, but I'm not that good. So,
no.
Yeah. Okay, so there was some flooding on the road, which I think is to be expected, but as long as it goes away pretty quickly, but I don't know the details of how long it was flooded for.
Quite good to get some feedback on it though.
Yeah, I'll try and understand it. it is a bit of a challenge, like with the refuse collection, they've got to get around all their cycle. They get there, oh, it's flooded, they can't wait, or, they've got to keep moving. And it might have only been for a short period where it was flooded. So, I guess from my perspective, if flooding's there, it's not ideal, but as long as it goes relatively quickly, with it.
That's what we don't know, that's what.
Exactly, so it's that detail, but I don't know whether.
They just spent $2 million, so we just want to see how effective it was.
And we did get a lot of rain,
Yeah,
we
it was
got
pretty intense.
We got 162 mils up till 5 o'clock yesterday.
Yeah, that's a lot, and I saw a couple of photos of some water in Tairua as well, and it looks like they did get a lot.
The message from council said our contractors can't go further than 422 Wentworth Valley Road today, a curbside collection due to flooding.
Okay.
I hope the road hasn't been washed away.
I hope not. Yeah, strip off that nice new seal.
Can I just ask?
That was the reason why they didn't want to do seal in the first place, was because of the flooding along area.
It is a real challenge.
But they've put a lot of work into culverts and drains and things like that, so they're trying to mitigate it.
Yeah, what I think will have happened is that the intensity of that storm, as Eileen was kind of talking about, is above the design criteria for that road, so we can't design for everything. That's a very intense, cloudburst storm that's gone above the design criteria.
I'm not complaining.
No, I know, I'm just trying to.
We like it. It's
just to give you a bit of a more broader picture. What I will do is I'll talk to the project team. They can follow up with one of the residents close by that location and see if they can find out how long the water hung around for. If it was fairly quick, I'm relaxed. If it was there for hours and hours, then I'm not so relaxed. So yeah, so leave it.
So the question really around what I'm coming to was, is it finished? And if it is, should we do something nice by having a champagne out there? Because, it's been a long-term project and it should be enjoyed, or if you felt the contractors did the right job, or maybe Ed and the boys can come out and make a moment.
Yeah, well, we had a few challenges on the way, as you know, but I think we've got there in the end. But I guess all I know at this stage is what's in the comment is that there's still some little follow-up works to be done. So what you're saying is, I need to confirm when the follow-up works, those last little bits are done, so that you can then have a ribbon cutting ceremony on the road and pop some champagne.
Before your next election.
I've got a question for the bottom item there, the boardwalk extension. And
Excuse me, can I do street furniture?
Did you have your hand up?
No, we haven't gone to street furniture.
Okay, put your hand up and I'll let you go to street.
Well, I don't know if that fitness track by Moana Anu, does that come under street furniture?
Generally not, but.
No, but it's just that I've had two people now, I can't remember who they were, one rang me up and the other one was this morning, about the bolts are rusting.
Okay. So that's probably more in the Parks and Reserves renewals, I would say. Okay. Maintenance and renewals.
Okay.
But if we get an RFS loaded for that, then the team will get out there and have a look at it and program it in.
Okay.
It's actually really good getting feedback,
So again, just carry on street furniture? Yeah, we did make a comment last meeting, back in November, about them going around the street furniture in the street, and some of the seats were starting to get a bit rotten and sort of jagged and things like that. Have they had a look at that?
I know Lou has been out there, but
we'd
have to follow that up with community.
They've done the surfboard, they've put that back in, some sort of structure there. Is that
the surfboard out here? Yeah.
So,
we had to replace that because it actually snapped in half with the hooligans at New Year's Eve, and it was dangerous, so we had to.
Now these are the seats in town, those little half round seats.
We can follow that up with community facilities because I know Lou has been out there.
So you don't get a motion to just follow that through?
Yeah.
That was at our last meeting after.
Yeah, I think some have been replaced, but I couldn't tell you that for sure.
With the damage that we received on that, and it must have been expensive to repair it, is there any possibility that over the New Year's Eve period that it can be covered or even removed for?
I'm not sure of the cost because that's through community facilities. So Roger Harwood did that with a nice big hunk of mud cover again, I think. I guess it just comes down to the wear and tear that it gets. I wouldn't block it off over New Year's time because it's so used. We look out our windows and people are on there having photos taken from 6 o'clock in the morning onwards.
Either that or we look at supporting it underneath so that they can't jump on it, because they just split it straight down the middle.
They split it so that it has got supports, it's got steel supports either side and underneath, but they stand on it and rock it either side, and it's split in half lengthways, not widthways.
That could be due to the age of it as well, they couldn't have, like, you know, with the new one there, I wouldn't expect you'd be able to do that quite so easily now, you know.
But that old one had been there for at least, I would say, 3, maybe 4 years. It had the rubber replaced on the top.
Oh, just in line with what Dave's saying around the cost of that, have you got an overall ballpark figure that the from the damage, cost of the damage on New Year's Eve and over that holiday period?
We're still waiting for all the costs to come in for that one, Your Worship. So we've got a lot of costs associated with the clean-up as well as damage and vandalism. So with Derek's team, the community facility, we're waiting for that money costs to come in, and also from the roading as well with the clean-up, the additional clean-up around the glass, because there was a lot of glass all over the roads. So yeah, we are pulling the stuff together, so we will have enough.
Will that be reported to the board?
Yep, we'll bring that back to the board, let you know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just to that, when you're talking about that, one of the issues they had there was the green bins were put out that day.
Yes.
So the ammunition was provided.
Yeah.
So maybe.
So the issue with that, and we've talked about that as staff as well, and we will be looking into what we can do about it. I double checked, the collection day was 2 days later, so yeah, those bins were out very early. So the options are we try and communicate with our customers, do not put your bins out early, put them out on the morning of the collection, which is what we already say, but obviously we'd like to get ahead of the game and get them out early. So it's that, or we look at other alternatives of what we do.
Different collection day.
Possibly, but it just gets hectic when you start moving them all around. You know, people get used to how the formula works over that period, and suddenly you change it because of the day New Year's falls, and suddenly it's all.
No, yeah, it was just because the pickup was Saturday and they come at 7:30, and people got them out Friday, and that was they came out Friday morning.
We're digressing a bit.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the work program. So I believe Ross is online, and I'd like him to give us an update on the boardwalk extensions. I see it's still green, but the latest advice from Ross was about the need for consultation being driven by DOC. Well, it's the first we've ever heard about it, and what is that going to do to the work program?
Yeah, hi Ken and board members. Yep, I bit disappointed with the process that DOC have been running. However, and we pushed pretty hard with them about, well, look, we've done a heck of a lot of consultation already. You just really basically got it all the information that you need there to make a decision. They needed to go through different levels of hoops and approvals, and they're quite adamant that they have to legally, under the Conservation Act, go through their own public notification process, and the public notification process and the decision making around that is basically focused on the 3 points that we were looking at with our concession application anyway. So we've done a lot of the work. They're going to use all our work to notify it again, but the unfortunate thing and the real disappointing thing is they have to do that. Now they've said they've already had a internal discussion application meeting, and that was held sort of mid-February with the Thames dock office. And what that meeting was to do, go through the application. Does anything extra needed to put it out to notification? They came back to me saying, no, it's all fine. There's enough information there. They then I think they were scheduled, and it should be this week, and I'll chase them today, that they're going to be notifying it for 20 working days. So that's mid-February. That'll take 20 working days. That's the statutory time frame. They put a little ad in the paper, a small sort of article, and basically saying this is open for public consultation. Mid-March is when it closes. Then their permissions team reviews it and sees whether there's a need for a hearing. Now, if there is, basically they're saying end of March, early April for a hearing, and then end of April would be a decision. So in terms of your green, I think it does need to go to amber around timeframes. What we're doing in the meantime is we've got a meeting with our consultants and the contractor on Friday, just to go through all the details and programming. The detailed design and the costs will just be firmed up and gone through on Friday. and stuff would get it. Well, we're going to have to hold, or we might have to preempt some ordering of materials for that decision. I'm assured by DOC that, I mean, they've said consistently through the process that, you know, the information's there. There's nothing substantive or substantial that, you know, could alter the, you know, or could have an issue with it. But it's just so uncertain because they've got to run their process and make a call. And then we've got this time frame. So that's where we're at, basically.
Okay, so why couldn't they have run this process last year? But they only just found out about that requirement.
They did run, well, I put the application in last year, and then it took them like 3 months to get onto it. And then they quoted and explained that it was a COVID-related issue. And then they pushed out 3 of the meetings initially for the pre-application public, you know, the first kind of discussion on the actual project when it was formally submitted by 2 weeks. So it's just been an ongoing saga with them.
Through the chair, what's the validity of the quote for the work?
What was that? Sorry, Tamsin?
How long is the quote for the work valid?
So there's an engineer's estimate. So that's valid for pretty much until the finishing of the project. But what we need to do is take that engineer's estimate and then get that formalised through the through a contract. So that's when basically Dave Arts then comes back to us with a quote. So that'll happen. We'll start
we already had a quote from Dave Arts.
Sorry, what was that?
Didn't we already have a quote from Dave Arts?
So we had a quote for his boardwalk, yes. So in terms of the timing, I mean, I don't think it's altered too much. It was last, you know, November or something like that. But I'll double check that.
I think definitely the costs of construction and timber are escalating. So it's been completed 6 months later, it's going to escalate.
Can I also suggest in line with what Tamsin was saying, which I agree with, that costs are escalating, but it's actually supply now that's the issue.
Yeah.
So being able to actually get the product, once all this is over, all this palaver that you've got to go through with dogs, once that's over, will the product be available?
Very good question.
If we went and bought the product in advance, would we be able to use it elsewhere if Doc said, no, we can't do it?
Yeah, we do all the beach access.
Yeah.
Possibly. We don't really like doing that because you end up with a whole lot of materials sitting around and they're never quite what you wanted them for. But
and you may have spent a whole lot of money for a particular project.
It's not that project, so we've made a commitment to the community. This is what the project is we're doing, and then we use that money to buy materials to do a different project. But, you know, we haven't really fulfilled our obligations. But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, just going to leave it as it is.
I think we wait and work through it as Ross has suggested. But Tamsin's and the Mayor's point is a good one. As costs are escalating, supply is a challenge at the moment for wood. So yeah, we just need to work through that.
Ross, don't go away. I'm looking at this list here and there's nowhere that says the Harbour Walkway on it with $112,000 in an annual plan to be completed this year. Can you give us an update on that one?
I will. Well, last year we had a chat about the design. We went through iwi consultation. We went through the archaeological. Yes, correct. Yep. So I'll just get back to you on a time frame around that one, Terry.
No, we need to get it going, Ross. Go.
Yep.
Just before you go, are you there?
Yes.
I put my little click up. While Ross and Bruce are there, I was just looking recently at the approved plan for the upgrade of Williamson Park, which was all to happen and has happened, but
sorry, Gary, can we just have an answer to Terry's last question before we can talk about Williamson Park?
Okay, well, it's just I'm having trouble getting on here.
Okay, you're next.
Okay.
Can you answer? Ross, can you answer?
Yeah, so the idea was to use the same contractor for the other one, but that's been delayed with Doc. So I'm going to have to go back and just have a push that along with a separate contract.
Put back on the work schedule.
Gary,
be good to see it on the work schedule.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you. I was going through my files the other day and I saw the approved upgrade plan for Williamson Park, which was progressed but it was never completed because we run out of money. Is that ever proposed to be completed?
What's he talking about?
Williamson Park.
Yeah, but what's he saying to be completed?
There was supposed to be done.
Yeah, sorry, Gary, I don't have an answer. I don't recall the details on that one. Sorry, I don't know if Ross.
Yeah, through the chair, Gary, there was sort of two stages to it. The big stage which was done and completed, and then there was a secondary shade sail stage, which was then actioned and completed last year or the year before. So as far as I'm concerned, was there anything in particular that you were looking at that needed to be finished?
Well, there were a number of other things in the approved plan. There was a walkway up from the beach along the side of the lake. There was also access to get into the park from Ocean Road. And that's all, I've been raising that with Bruce of more recent times. It just seems that to go along Ocean Road, you suddenly run out of footpath and you have to cross across a very busy road, and for access to get into Williamson Park at peak times, it's almost suicidal for people pushing prams. They really can't get through. And that was being looked into, and to consider whether there may be a tie-up to join up around the edge towards the boardwalk. So that's still being looked at, I understand.
Yes, so Gary, I think the discussions, if I recall correctly, what we talked about there was if that was a priority for the board, that would be something that would be an LTP consideration. And I guess with our projects that we've proposed for the draft LTP, we've gone with the must-dos, and we haven't really gone with the discretionary projects. So I would say that's probably one of the ones that may be a casualty of that process we've gone through. Now, obviously, we've got to go out to consultation next month, so there's opportunities there around submissions, and the board might make decisions or submissions around adding a project in, such as adding that walkway in.
Sure, yeah. But it's also the safety aspect, because really people trying to get across to Williamson Park from Ocean Road, it really is, they have to go through the car where the cars drive, and it really is quite scary. And I think that's something that needs to be seriously looked at.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the solution to that would be, because I know we installed that pedestrian refuge in the middle of the road previously to try and assist with that.
But the other needs a footpath back to join, just along there to join to the corner, so they go across the road to the other footpath. I went and had a look the other day. Yeah. You do just get to a hump and there's a railing there, and that's it. There's no actual method of pushing your pram along the footpath edge.
It's a separate discussion, right, because it's not on the order.
Yeah.
I'd just like to go back to talking about the boardwalk. So just to confirm that TCDC direct costs are always excluded from the budget. So at what point do we consider the extent of time? This has been over 13 months of Ross's work. And then if we decide, are we always going to push through and go for a hearing? Like, we just come back for consultation?
So, probably don't have a good answer on all of that, Tamsin, but what I would say is if we talk about direct costs like Ross's time, we do charge that to a project.
Yeah.
So that the project staff charge chargeable hours every month. So if he's spent a certain number of hours, they'll go down against that project. So that, I don't know if that answers the first section of your query, but probably doesn't answer the second part.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know if you've got anything to add to that, Ross?
Sorry, I heard the first part. The second part, Tamsin, was whether we're going out to consult again?
Well, no, is it a given that we'll push through with the hearing and continue to incur costs?
Okay, so the costs associated with the DOC hearing, so there's that's under the Conservation Act, and that's something DOC are doing themselves. There will be no direct costs to the project or to the ratepayer for that process. It's a time delay, which then indirectly may have a cost on materials, as you raised before, but that hearing process is DOC run and won't have an impact.
Just while we're on Williamson Park, maybe Bruce is the one there. Yep. We've requested several times, we need to make a motion, I think, to get it happening. The parking bays in Williamson Park, where the cars park up by the cafe there, are all gouged out in the sand, and we've asked to put some compressed metal down there. Yeah. Or seal it, whatever you want, but I see the budget's only $2 grand left sitting in the steel bay. Yeah. To put some compressed metal in there so that people can drive on there without bellowing out in the cars, and it gets even worse in the winter.
Yeah,
when the rain
it's
gets
terrible.
in. And there's about 2 or 3 small little 4 or 5 car park bays that need to be upgraded.
Okay, I'll talk to, I'll get Lou to have a look.
You want us to put a motion on it?
You don't have to, but it's your call, but
We need things done.
yeah, well, I think we had a discussion on it and talked about the budget wasn't available, but if there's a couple of grand left, we can have a look and see if there's something that we can do on a low cost basis. I'll get Lou, our field rep, to have a look at that.
I think the trouble is, Bruce, what they did is they put a concrete strip on the edge of the road.
Yeah.
So from the other side, from the concrete strip, now it's just scraping.
Yeah, and that often does happen, you know, like the ground dries and shrinks back.
But it's only sand.
It needs metal in there.
Yeah.
Some seal would be great, but
I think Bruce has got the meeting, so I don't think we need to resolve it.
I'll get Lou to follow up.
Bruce, over the Christmas period, there were about
Richard down in Plymouth, he's the chair for Coromandel.
Who was that?
Somebody else speaking? Keep going.
over the Christmas period, there were about 7 campers that were parking in Williamson Park where the barbecues are, blocking that area off.
Oh, yeah.
Is there any consideration we could give to putting a sign either end saying that no camping in that area?
But they weren't parked in the daytime, they weren't there at night.
They were at night when we did community patrol, I was still back.
There's nothing to stop them parking there at night, so we don't want to make a big issue. Freedom can be by what we should have made that alteration if we wanted.
Yeah, I'm always reluctant to put too many signs up, you know, because you just end up with so many signs everywhere for everything. But yeah, I'd be guided by the community board's thoughts on whether they think that's something they need or not. Yeah.
I feel like it's been discussed before, but the OPEX projects,
Yes.
were they coming into this report?
So I think, yeah, so basically what my team look after is the capital projects, and I think if there's OPEX ones, we get those added on later on afterwards. So if that's something that you want those added back in, then we'll talk to Eileen and her team and get those added back in if they're operational ones that the board's looking at.
Yeah.
Clean. Good example. I'm just trying to think of what we might have had on there previously, but Eileen will probably know, won't you? Go back and have a look at one of the previous reports. Yeah.
There was the grants, and I think there was like the green maintenance, maybe.
Yeah.
There was just a couple.
Yeah, as we move to the new report and transitioned across to my team, there are a few things that have dropped off. So
Okay, but it did have things like the information centre and the library and when reports have been received based on their agreement.
Oh, that was part of the grants.
Yeah.
Contract community services.
Okay.
Budget, yeah.
That'd be worthwhile having the full picture for us, not just the capital.
yeah, we'll have a look at that.
Can I just ask a question, please?
Well, it depends what it is.
Where do the toilets come into this? Are they under community facilities, which we don't seem to?
Yes, they are. Yep, they are under community facilities, and again, it might.
Because I mean, we have been banging on about a few toilets for a few years.
It depends what we talk about. It might be one that slipped off the list inadvertently.
Island,
the other ones, but is that a project on there?
It's slipped off, it used to be on there, it used to be.
It's slipped off. It's amazing how things are slipping off.
It is
So if
amazing.
we had them slip back on, that would be really good.
Drinking water standards, can you give us an update on the upgrade at the drive project?
Yeah, so what I know is that the Beverly Hills stuff is going really well, and then they'll be moving on to the other sites. So is that the one you're talking about, Terry, the Beverly Hills stuff? Yeah, yeah. So I don't really have any of the specific details apart from that. Yeah, I think they were doing a retaining wall there, and I think that's all gone pretty well. And they're just moving forward with that.
Make a tree put in or anything like that stage?
Not yet, no, they're not at that stage. I don't believe so. They've obviously finished Toru and Pawanui, which I know is not Whangamata, but it's the southeastern ward. So
you unveiled the Pawanui one.
Yeah. Yeah, that was good. I understand. Yeah, yeah. Lorna's putting her hand up behind you.
Terry, we have been putting an update on the Friday, council's updates about the treatment plant, and when that one is complete, we'll do another thank you to everybody that's involved in it.
Right.
And for the other ones.
Okay, yeah. So can I just ask, is this one going to have where the filtration is going to go? Is this where you put the filters?
Yeah. Yeah, so obviously Whangamata is a little bit different to most of the other towns. There's a multitude of bores around the township. So In Whangamata, it's not one water treatment plant, as you know, like the other townships. It's a small treatment at each of those bores. So there'll be chlorination, as there is currently, but there'll be upgraded chlorination, upgraded filtration, because we have to add that for the drinking water standards, and just setting them up properly at each site. So obviously Wentworth will have an upgrade as well.
So all the water won't go to that treatment spot?
No,
there to be treated?
no,
Each one's got its own?
Each one will have its own. And it's about making the balance between, do we try and centralise and have one treatment plant, or do we have the individual ones? And with the water in Whangamata and the way the bores work, it's better to have individual. Because
so the telemetry will go around all those sites or stay where it is? So what's the building that for it?
So the building will be for the filtration, and it'll be for the telemetry and electronics, and it will also be for the chlorine gas.
So it's all going to be there?
Yeah, so it'll all be there for those bores. So there's 2 bores in Whangamata and Beverly Hills, so those 2 bores.
Just for those 2 bores?
Just those 2 bores.
Oh, right.
They're quite big bores, so there'll be little treatment there. And Wentworth Valley, there's 3 bores out there, so we'll big treatment up by the reservoirs there. And Minor Point will have some in there.
Last thing, sorry, while we're going through these teething issues of things dropping off the document, is it possible to get the track changes of the document sent to us in advance so that we're just able to get visibility of the difference between the 2 meetings?
Generally, it's not generally something we do, because that could get quite hectic sending that.
It's just, it seems bizarre that things are just disappearing.
They do.
Well, they don't normally, so this is something that's happened through us changing. So the community office used to manage all these project work program updates. And what happened was that in the community office, we're having to then chase my team, the project delivery portion of my team, to get updates. So what I said is let's bring it back, and I'll get the project delivery team to do this specifically. But obviously we've got the split across operational projects as well as capital projects. The project delivery team know nothing about the operational projects. So it's just making sure we're coordinating across the teams that we're getting everything back on there. So there is a little bit of teething and getting it landed. But
so if I can just ask members, when you open your agenda, if you see something that's missing, come either to me or Eileen and say what it is, and we'll see if we can get that information presented to the meeting.
Yeah, then I can come to the meeting with that information.
Rather than raising it to the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we've had a good discussion.
No, we got one very important one at the end here. CCTV cameras.
Okay.
It's got 130 grand here, spent 130 grand, but Mr. Bowden told us because of the fuss over the installation of this out of the transfer station, they had to put an internet connection as opposed to an aerial, that there was 20 grand in here for extra cameras coming into this AP. So we want to know where that money's gone. He has told us that money is available for extra cameras in this financial year.
In this financial year, there's 20 grand additional to what you already had.
Additional that he organised, that was over and above what we already spent that was supposed to have been done 2 APs ago.
I'm going to have to follow up because he can't just approve additional budget. He has to go back through council if you want additional budget.
What he told us.
For the project. So I need to follow up with him and work out what he's actually was talking about with the 20k and whether there's a process there that he's going through and maybe that hasn't happened yet.
Because of
the carry on and all the money that was extra spent on that project that went over and over and over, time frames.
Yeah, Bruce, I think follow up because we do have a desire for a couple of additional sites.
We've spoken to him about it.
Yeah, no, I understand the board's desire for additional sites. And I know you have spoken with him about it. I'm just trying to work out if we took a lot more time and expense, how we have additional budget on top of that money. But I'll check with Andrew and see what he's referring to there and make sure I understand what he committed to with you guys.
Well, it was because we couldn't get it on the poll that they had to change.
I understand that. What I'm trying to understand is what the 20,000 additional is and where that's come from.
You have a chapter.
Thank you, Bruce. Okay, so I'll move the recommendation on the paper. Someone like to
Excuse me, does that mean that community facilities are back on this work schedule?
Projects will be, yeah. So if any projects are missing, what I'm saying is I'm committing any projects that are missing, we'll get those back in this capital section. And then we're going to work also with Eileen and her team to get the operational stuff back on the bottom.
Because I'm sure we've had community.
Yeah, so we've discussed that, so we're going to spend it.
I understand.
Okay, so I'll move the resolution. Someone like to second that? Tamsin. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Right, so we're now moving to item 5.1. So we're only half an hour behind schedule. That's not bad. Action schedule for the community board, so anyone want to raise any, I won't go through them one by one, just anyone want to raise any items there?
We were discussing about an extra dump station. Is that something you want to discuss now?
Well, it's not on the list per se.
We did it under.
You're talking about the one on Martin Road?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. I do know that Derek and his team have been looking, so they had an email from Lee Rapson about the possibility of putting one out on the state highway by the wastewater plant. But of course, that's NZTA involvement. So the last I know is community facilities and myself are going to meet with and see if there's other possibilities, other areas that there's a possibility of putting a dump station.
We thought about the area out by the transfer station, either that or possibly by the school, just on the intersection of the back road and Port Road, somewhere there, so that people that are coming into town can use it from there.
The good areas, but it's you NZTA own that, so you're getting to deal with NZTA.
Through the chair, I went and drove out there to the wastewater plant. When you drive into the pond area, it's off NZTA Road. You can just turn into there. It's a great turning circle there because they want to turn around there.
Yeah.
There's ample room to put a big vehicle into there, turn around and unload it, go and come out either way and without any interruption to state highway traffic. So I would really support Dave's move for this for us to look at it because the other one isn't a bad place. It's a lot of congestion. We have the rugby on the weekend. They're all filled up there across the road from the service centre. They fill up over there. So it's really messy and they do spill every now and again. Yeah. Have issues. Understand. So it'd be really good if we could advance that discussion and have a look.
So if we can have that on the list for reporting back. That's it. Okay, any other items people want to talk about?
Can I just ask about I noticed its action status is closed, but we're getting a report on the resource consent, a change to investigate variation.
What's this for?
For the action schedule.
Well, that's on the workshop today.
That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, under the workshop, the last time on the
Yeah,
workshop.
on the workshops. After this meeting, we're going to discuss that. So it's not closed, it's open, it's just had closed there.
It's just got closed.
Well, it's closed, it's gone on to the workshop for us to discuss, yeah. It's not the
You can ask, is there anything that, Bruce, that you want to talk about this action schedule that we need to know?
Not really. The one thing that I will be getting onto, or trying to get the team onto now, is around reuse recovery centre at the transfer station. So obviously I had some emails come through in the last couple of weeks that Terry had passed on to me, and I've found those now and get through my emails. That obviously they want to move forwards on that, and I think I cast my mind back to November when they came and presented to the board. What we talked about was around a bit of land, and we had some discussions at that workshop, I think, with that group around the land. So that's the thing we can help out with as far as where would be a suitable site on that location of the transfer station land to put it. And I guess what we'd be looking for, which we did discuss this in November a lot, I think from memory went into it in some detail with them, was around their work as a trust or.
They've set up their trust, they've actually got a bin recovery system going at the moment.
Yes, I saw that.
For scraps.
Yeah, which is great.
Now we're looking to see where you guys are going.
Yeah, I guess I suppose, and it just comes to mind because we had it today, was that that document that the swimming pool guy brought through. It's very detailed. It sets out all the information. That's the kind of stuff we'd be looking for from that group about the reuse recovery, that they've done their work and they've set out how they think everything is going to work.
Well, I think they've got a stage of, they're asking you now, they've had the job with you guys to come back to them and say, this is what we think we can provide.
Yeah.
And that's the discussion we're at. So the ball's in your court at the moment.
Yeah, okay, so I didn't believe the ball was fully in my court. I think what we talked about when they came in November was that, yes, we will provide them with some land. We'll work out exactly where on the site is the best location for that. But in the meantime, they need to keep working on their project, which it sounds like they've done some work.
They've done
And make sure they talk to Kilt, who's in Coromandel, the Coromandel Independent Living Trust. And the CL Centre, understand everything that those groups did. Because obviously the group has to drive it. We can help them with the site, as you say, Terry, and make sure that they've got a site at the transfer station and they've got that commitment from us, but they need to drive the rest of the project. So
what can we go back to them today and tell them?
Tell them that now we're out of a peak period, because I'm probably not making this clear to them at the time, and I apologise if I didn't, was that obviously as we lead into November, December, into the peak period, I've got to concentrate my staff on the operational side of things and making sure they're doing all that. But we're kind of out the back of that. We can actually start looking at the site. And remember, we've got one person across 3 councils that looks after solid waste, and we are trying to recruit for an additional role to look at what site. And I've already asked him to make sure he's confirming with me what part of the site could be useful for that reuse centre. So we can then confirm that with them. But in the meantime, they need to keep moving on all their planning. And
well, I think they are happy to sit down and tell you where they're coming from and what they've done.
I guess what I'm looking for is I'm not trying to be rude, but I don't want to sit down and talk with them about it. I want them to put together a document of how they see them moving forward that shows they've done their homework, you know what I mean? Just like I say, like the swimming pool, they've obviously gone through and done all they've gone and got costs, they've looked at everything. It's that kind of level of detail is what I'm
operational outline.
Yeah, just a plan.
I'd like you to be able to provide that if you could. It's news to me to send them that a request, outline that information, and also if you can give them a date or a time when you could come back with some options for them to look at the site.
Yeah.
Maybe before the next community board meeting, if that suits.
Yeah, as well as, I think there's also been discussion about potentially other sites that the transfer station doesn't move.
Yeah.
So, well, as long as that dialogue continues, we don't want the thing to sort of.
No, definitely not. Yeah, I mean, it's not in the, obviously the peak period's not the time for us to do it, but we're out of that now, so definitely now's the time to say, look, here's a couple of options for sites, on the transfer station where you can do that work.
What about 101 Lindsay? Is there any potential there?
No comment.
Because I'll take the opportunity to explain that now.
Is it one you've looked at?
What's that, sorry?
101 Lindsay for it.
No, definitely not. I think my guidance with them, if I recall correctly, in November was that it needs to be at the transfer station, because you want to capture people on the way to the transfer station. And if they've got to go here to the reuse centre and then out to the transfer station, humans, we're inherently lazy. We will just go straight to the transfer station. So you really want it there on the front end of the transfer station, so you capture the people as they're going in. So my preference is that it be on the same site. I think that'll work better and get better recovery. Otherwise, people will just bypass.
They won't.
Yeah, they won't. People are busy. They've got things to do on the weekend. They just go straight to the transfer station and you don't get the recovery. So,
well, let's have that discussion, because I think we're keen to sit down with you and move that forward.
I'll be happy to take part in the discussion.
Yeah, that'll be useful. It's just time from our side, like we've got a lot of council services that we're trying to deliver and manage, and we really want the group to be self-sufficient and sustainable.
They're doing some work. They're quite organised. And they're doing things now proactively, so they're not just sitting there waiting. They're actually out there doing it.
That's good, because in November they didn't really have any details. I remember I quizzed them on a couple of things.
They have moved on, and they asked them you where to move going with it.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Yep, no, I'm happy to keep that one moving with them. Yeah.
Can I just ask about the water management? I know we had a report come in November about the pre-season management of water.
Yeah.
What can we do about taps that constantly leak in our public facilities?
Just put an RFS through and then we'll get it.
And they just continue. They're so old, and this is what we're trying to bang on about, that our facilities that are being dropped off really need to be looked at. And, we have this water restrictions.
Yeah.
Why bother when just about you go into a toilet by the surf club, by Island View, and the taps are leaking?
Yeah.
You turn them off so hard. I think people are just ruining them.
Yeah.
The urinal at the skate park, but fills up and flushes.
Yeah.
So the work program is not the place to be talking about that kind of stuff.
So where does it come in, like this water management?
So water management, from memory, I think we talked about, and I think it might be in the action schedule, about a report to come back around water.
But isn't it under infrastructure and stuff?
Yeah, it is. So we talked about a report to come back to the board, which we're pulling together for all the district around how water went over the summer, around what water was used, all that stuff.
So when will we get that?
So we'll get that probably in next meeting, maybe the one after that. Won't be too far away.
Top page 39.
Just because we're just doing it for the water services about the population, so there's plenty of things, but because it's taking a bit longer to put together, we're looking at probably about April to pull that together.
So that's that.
Well, it's just a print off.
No, it's not.
I get a print off each year of the pumps operational on the board. It's just red line, blue line, red line, blue. That's what it is.
I think they're trying to pull together a bit more information than that.
No, we don't need a bit more. We just need the performances of bores and which ones you barreled off and which one you didn't. And the demand strategy.
That's quite operational data. Like normally I wouldn't be providing that to elected members. That's normally something my team manages. We give you a higher level information of how things went over.
We don't get any reports on
just the board graph showing.
Okay, look, we've had an answer from the staff. We'll wait to see that report.
But we're heading for water meters, right?
But April's
surely we're going to.
We're digressing away from the items on the agenda, so.
No, but it is.
To close out that.
Through the chair, I would like to see that report before April.
Yeah.
When's your next meeting? 30th of March. Okay, 30th of March.
It'll be before April.
One day before April. 2 days. Just to close that out though, so on the leaking taps and fittings, we just need an RFS, and then I can manage my team and our contractors to make sure that starts being replaced. If we're not getting an RFS come through, it's very hard to.
I think you'll find there's been quite a few.
And if there are, then I'm happy to jump on the team and the contractors. But if there isn't an RFS to the contractors to say that tap's leaking or the urinals running continuously, it makes it very hard for me to jump on the contractors.
I know at least 2 have gone over.
Okay, so I'll bring this to a halt now. We're getting way behind time. I'll move the resolution on the water paper. So I'd like to second that. Okay, all those in favour? Against, carried. So now we move to members' report.
Do we wait? No, he's got 5 minutes away, so he's not quite ready. She came in, thank you.
Yeah, we'll do that. Okay, members' reports. Anyone want to tell us anything? Dave, start.
I've attended 3 meetings at Whangamata since the new year. They had their normal meeting on the 1st of January, and then they had the AGM the following week, and then since then they've had a social one last week. They're pretty happy in general with what's going on. There's a few different things that they're querying about. 2 things that I'd like to bring to the meeting. One of them is about the tennis courts. The nets and the winches apparently require maintenance or replacement, and they wanted to know whether that's a TCDC duty to replace those or not. Can anybody answer that? Yes.
They're our courts.
Yeah, they are.
So if they're, through the chair, if they're our courts, I'd say that's our responsibility. Unless there's some tennis club trust that runs them, but if there's not, then it would generally be ours.
I think the ratepayers themselves have provided those things in the past, but we can check that out.
They can put an RFS again.
Okay, RFS for that. And the other one was just in relation to the toilet at the surf club, where apparently the council has put a notification that it's not for use, and they're asking whether in fact there is a written report on the condition of the toilets, and also apparently the quote was for $14,000 to bring them up to scratch, and there was only 7,000 something that was allocated to them. Their concern is that that was going to be a single toilet that was also available for people with in wheelchairs, etc., and that they understood that it was an agreement when the building for the surf club, etc., was going ahead, that that toilet would be part of the agreement.
What are we talking about?
So this is Whangamata Surf Club, so that's Derek's team's working with that.
Yeah, Derek's team and Ross. I don't know if Ross is still online or not, but you might have gone. Ross still there? You there, Ross?
I think he's gone.
If you just follow up with that, Bruce, because the board was quite keen that the toilet, there was still one public toilet there at the Civic Club.
Yes, I recall that. We've been backwards and forwards over this around, trying to fit within cut our cloth to suit about the money, and then about having the, disabled access toilet, and it's there, but I can't recall all the details. So,
if you could follow that, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just have the LGNC National Council Strategy Day and then another National Council meeting. I'm just focusing on revitalising local government and the future of local government in New Zealand. So they're planning to revolutionise everything over the next 12 months. So I will update you as I have more information. Some correspondence with people out at Opotili around the issues of the freedom campaign over the New Year's Eve period. So I will forward on that. They had a lot of overflow from the concert. And then just a lot of correspondence regarding New Year's Eve, and then also related parties with regards to something for the youth in town.
Okay.
Too much.
Okay, put something. Terry.
Yes, I've just got one thing that I want to raise, and I raised it yesterday at the Tairawhānui board meeting, and that's the amount of reporting follow-ups that we have a meeting, reports that we expect that don't turn up in the meeting. Today there's 8 follow-up reports and 3 not included, and I'm making a stand on this. We need this information. These meetings come every 6 weeks. It's been 4 months since we had our last one, and this information needs to be at the table for us to digest and understand. So I would like to see that happen. In fact, our governance officer said you should be putting motions on the board making this happen, so it becomes in words and minutes for things to happen rather than just waiting for answers. So I'm just putting it out there to staff to say that when we come to this meeting, we would like that information available for us to read at the meeting at that time. Thank you.
Karen.
I've got nothing to report, thank you.
Okay, well, I won't add anything, so I'll move that we receive the members' reports. Seconded by Taylor, in favour? Aye. Against, carried. Now we need to exclude the public.
So do I need to take
You gotta go.
out?
Yeah.
Can I just make a comment?
Yeah.
This is the minutes relating to when we had the awards we gave out. I can understand why that excluded the public, but now it's all public. We know what happened. And so why are these minutes excluded from the public? It's nothing of any moment, and it's all out there in the public. I keep raising this, how things get taken off agendas.
Was there any public excluded?
No.
It's been.
I agree with you, Gary. It is now public information, but in terms of the standing orders and the legislation, it was considered in public. We didn't decide to restate it. So I think at this stage,
Excuse me, can I ask a question though before you do that? Was all of the information provided at the meeting provided to the public?
no.
So what you're doing is you're only passing the public excluded proportion of that last meeting. So while you've made some things public, there would be a whole lot of additional information that hasn't been made public.
Yeah, but that information that's considered not to be public has to be there for a reason. It can't just decide, well, we're just going to...
I don't know what it is, but I'm just pointing it out.
It's got to meet a criteria.
Well...
Okay, well, we're wasting time talking. I think we just passed the minutes. It's out there in the public, but it does seem a bit nonsense. Moved by Kay, seconded by
Me.
Tamsin. All those in favour? Aye. Against, carried. And now we've got to pass this extended resolution. Movement public excluded.